Yeah, I get the email go through and then it just goes to I just watch a YouTube video of you, but nothing on
Oh,
mine.
okay.
Google hand it. So when I click on that link, it just goes to that picture that I sent you.
Yeah,
But it's just
and
I'm
that's
just watching you.
previous
There's no
ones. That's ones that I did maybe on Tuesday. Okay, so this worked quicker, just sending you the actual link.
yeah
Okay, sweet. Okay, how you going with the course?
yeah good. I did the I've done all of week 5 bar just the I got to do the debates,
Yep,
like leadership debates. But I've watched the lecture, done the readings, done the listening test.
how'd you go
Yeah,
with the listening test?
that was a 33 questions, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Check out my result here. I think patience
Okay.
was my thing that I needed to work on.
Patience.
Yeah, patience. Yeah, because I've got it here. So, yeah, sometimes when you're interacting with others and want to add a word or simply you want to move the conversation along, it can be a challenge for you to sit quietly and wait. You have some degree of patience, but it's limited. This is simply a trait that needs to be developed further. The problem is when you're not feeling particularly patient, it could be potentially result in interrupting or difficulty being fully attentive, which can disrupt the flow of conversation. In order to keep interactions with others harmonious, it is important that you strive to improve this area.
That's so me. I do exactly
Yeah.
the same thing.
Yeah.
I was about to interrupt you. No, I'm kidding. But I do it all the time. But I have learnt to sort of try and be in the moment with the person and allow them to finish a sentence. So I've put some rules in place where I've got to allow people to finish what they're saying before I can actually contribute. But a
Yeah.
lot of times, like I'll finish people's sentences and I'm like, no, don't do that. Like
Yeah. I do the
it
same.
can come across as rude sometimes. So, but it's not. It's just the fact that hey, I know what you're saying, and can we just move on? I get it, but
Yeah. I do
um,
that at work all the time. So
I just
like
didn't do it again.
yeah, I do it at work all the time where someone will explain to me a reason as to why they're putting weight on or why they're not losing any weight, and I know the answer. Like they'll come up with silly things saying, I think it's actually the clothing that I'm wearing. I'm buying. I used to buy a size 14. Now I buy size 13, and it's just tighter. And you
Oh,
just sit there and you're like, you're wrong, and you're
yeah.
like, oh. And then I always just cut people off and do that and go, well, stop coming up with all these silly excuses. But
Yeah.
I'm not listening to them and going, yeah,
It's also good insight when they start, like, so it goes back to, you remember the week about attribution theory, where it's interesting to hear people's excuses as to
yeah,
why they are successful or not. And it gives you some really good insight where their head's at. So
yeah,
you, giving those excuses to external things, they're actually, you really got to question their intention to want to make a change.
yeah. Like I've learned that, like I had a 14, 16-year-old guy who never really exercised, and he wanted to put the emphasis on that he threw up in the middle of the session and all that stuff, and he put the emphasis on his prescriptions. He needed new glasses, and he said he was seeing like because he was really fuzzy in his vision,
Yeah.
but really it was because he's never exercised before, and he come in like in the morning, didn't eat, and then he did like a really hard, intense session that was way over his head. But he didn't want to own the fact that he was unfit, so he put the blame on something else. So he
You
come up,
might have You might
yeah,
have to send me some links to information about lactic acid buildup and all that stuff, so you actually understand. It's
yeah.
what.
So
So
that's what I talked to him about. So I talked to him about that, but when he was halfway through his explanation, I cut him off and then said, this is the reason, this is what happened. It's not because of your prescription, because, you weren't, you just had too much lactic buildup. But when I walked away, after doing all that stuff with the listening test, I realized, oh, well, he was actually telling me that, but if I looked deeper into it, I could actually identify that he was actually ashamed to tell me that he was like unfit, where like it's not a shameful thing for me.
Yeah.
Like I don't care if because I work with unfit people all the time. So it's just a common thing to me. But he didn't want to be seen as that unfit person. He wanted to be seen as someone who could do more than he can actually achieve.
I think also for the people who are starting the program, it's normal. You're not fit. So it's okay if you throw up. It's okay if you're struggling, because you should be struggling. So again, it goes back to education. So, but yeah, so many times I walk away from clients going, oh, did I handle that right? Like, did I listen properly? I do appreciate doing things like the listening questionnaire, because I'm like, I notice I look at mum when she speaks, but I don't listen to mum when she speaks,
No.
And it's trying to make changes to that type of behaviour. So, all right. Let's have a look. I'm going to share my screen with you. We'll have a look at this content for the week. It's a little bit sad that there's just me and you, as in the debate probably requires different opinions, but oh well. So can you see my whole screen now?
Yep. Yeah, I see the study smart.
Okay. I've actually really worked my ass off to get this stuff ready. So I've got up to about week 9 I'm still working on. In fact, that should be available yet, so I'll just hide it. But so just keep chowing through the topics. Like I said, you don't need to be gung-ho, so take your time. But I just wanted to make sure that if you had the opportunity that you could go ahead.
Right.
Plus I'm doing face-to-face at the moment, so I just like to be organised. All right, so this week, the reading, it's all about communication, I think. And one of the things I've realised about leadership is pretty much manipulating a group to achieve a goal. And that's what you do as a PT. You manipulate an individual to do things so that they lose weight.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about the presentation when we finish. So did you get the opportunity to rate your leadership skills?
Yeah, I did do that. I don't know what I...
Yeah, I don't...
I did do that. What did I say? Oh, what is it? Do you send it through?
It probably instruction, right? So maybe I just get an average of what everybody says. Oh, we've got 2 responses. So, or maybe 1. No, there's only 1 person. So it's just you who's done that. Oh, look at, to be honest, it's just rating. And I think looking through those variables, where are the variables? Let me just enhance the screen.
Yeah, so I forget what I got, but I did send it through.
It
was, I know this. It was, if I look at them, I think resourcefulness and flexibility. Yeah. Oh, they're there. Yeah. Okay. Everything else was quite yeah.
Yeah, cool. Flexibility is hard too, particularly when you prep for a session and you want the session to run really smoothly, and then things go out the door. So if you've got it, I've experienced it as a basketball coach. Like you prep for 10, 12 kids to turn up, and you've only got 6, so you can't play 5 and 5 now.
No, yeah. What's really helped me with that is doing PT as well. I also run a lot of boot camps.
Yeah.
So with the boot camps, the people aren't booked in, so you don't know who's rocking up. So, we've got 100 members that come to the studio that just do boot camp. You might get 10, you might get 13, you get weird numbers. So I've really learnt to go into, like, when I first started doing PT or any training, I'd go in with the exact model or exact training session that I wanted to do. But after doing it for 4 and a bit years, 10, 20 different sessions that you can run, and then you look at what you've got. So instead of looking at always trying to go, today I want to do a really intense leg session in the legs boot camp, and I want to use barbells, dumbbells, and I want to have these stations, you get 4 people rock up and you go, well, probably better to play maybe some cone drill games that really get the legs really heavy. So getting them on the bikes or something, you can, really good on my feet in that way.
Yeah.
But the flexibility might be like, because I'm so, I am so busy, like I do, sometimes 40 to 50 hours of PT a week, then throw study in, and then throw your social life in, and you've got someone that cancels you last minute. And 2 weeks ago when they cancelled last minute, they were able to do a catch up somewhere. But then this week I'm too busy, and I go, nah, unlucky. That's your fault. If you let me know earlier, or if you can do tomorrow, I can do tomorrow, but I can't move a heap of people around just to suit you because you might cancel again. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's that building that respect, and I think that's hard, like to try and, as a professional in your field, trying to say, hang on a minute, you just rang me, you cancelled the day of,
yeah,
and that's okay. Like, I mean, do you charge still if that happens? Like,
so we have a 24-hour late cancellation. So if I was training you and you were training at 3 o'clock today and you cancelled right now, it's up to you and me to decide whether we train or not.
Right.
So there's a few people that I train that come in their lunch break every day.
Yeah.
So say they come Monday, Wednesday, Friday on their lunch break and they cancel. I go, oh, don't worry, I'm in during the day anyway. Do you want to come in Thursday? But when they get what's called our peak hours, so 4, 5, and 6 o'clock, if they cancel their training in those times, I don't have that flexibility to put them in.
Yeah.
So what I used to do is, they'd let you know and you go, right, I've got to move 6 other people around just to fit this one person in because they couldn't be bothered coming in, or they couldn't let me know. But what I do now is I just give them my calendar and I go, right, these are the hours I work, fit in what you can. So if they're really keen to try and get that extra session, they'll look at it and go, oh, well, maybe I will have to come in at 7 a.m. in the morning instead of coming in at 6 p.m. at night because that's the only spot he has available.
Yeah.
What I used to do was I'd have to move everyone around. Now I just throw them my timetable and go, if you can find a spot, I'll train you then. If not, you obviously forfeit that session. And a lot of them just forfeit the session, or they come in and because they missed a session with me, they come in and do their own thing the next day. So I'll be still working, but with someone else, but they're actually coming in and trying to make up for what they missed out, and it puts the accountability back on them.
And that's what you got to do. I mean, by doing that, they then step in your shoes and go, oh my God, he's busy. Wow, I've actually stuffed him up. So that's a really good way of establishing that respect between client and PT. That's good. All right, let me again share the screen. So where are we? Right, so we've done that. Then we had I find these questions really interesting. Obviously, I don't think anybody's contributed yet to this. But, the question of, do you think leaders are born, not made? Leaders are born, not made. I mean, what are your thoughts about that, just in terms of if we have, where are you going? I can't find you. Stop sharing. There you go.
I know, I've always, I look for my life, obviously, and I've always been wanting to be captain of everything. So playing junior soccer, playing cricket, I've always wanted to do that leadership role. But then I know when I started PT, that confidence wasn't there initially because you're running boot camps with 40 people and you're the one in charge and you're not confident, but I kept working on that. So I kept trying to make myself, become better as a leader and be more dominant and making sure I take authority. So I definitely think you're born with those type of traits, but I think you have those traits, but you put in more and more effort to make it grow and make them, the more dominant characteristic.
Yeah, cool.
My brother is the opposite, where he doesn't want any of that extra responsibility. So we're both in the same household, but I really do. So whenever we go and do something, I'll take the initiative. We go out for simple thing like we'll go out for dinner. I'll be the one that calls the waiter back over to get us another get us drinks. Like I've got that confidence to do it, but where my brother doesn't.
Yeah.
But I definitely think, like, I got a lot of people that are trained, they just don't have any confidence in them. And no matter how hard they try, they never really want to, it just doesn't interest them. They don't have that competitive nature to step out of their shell. They just are happy doing their job or being like happy with themselves. So they might lose 10 kilo, but they're more than happy just for them to know that, or me and them to know that. But then there's other people that lose 20 kilo or 10 kilo, and they want it to be all over Facebook. They want it to be all over the studio. And then they want to go to boot camp and see the next person coming in trying to lose 20 kilo and take them under their wing and go, hey, I've done this, you can. And they both start at the same spot.
Look, I mean, it's a really difficult question to give a straight answer to, and you're right. Like, you've got to consider personality. That comes into play. So if you're an introverted person, not very confident, you're less likely, like you said, to just go, hey, yeah, sweet, I'll take the leadership on that. But at the same time, like you mentioned, when you started your PT, it was the lack of, I guess, skills in how to manage a massive group in a boot camp that affected your confidence. So both come. So to be honest, it's really a discussion, and there is no right or wrong answer. You really need to have both. Like, you need to have the training. Otherwise, one, why do we have degrees? If people are set to lead, why do we have a degree that trains you to lead? Exactly. But at the same time, it looks at people's personality types will tend to steer towards careers where, for example, if you're extroverted, you're more likely to take on a leadership responsibility. So, the second one was, and this is, I mean, I think Hitler comes up on this topic. By definition, a leader is a person who does what is right or good. What are your thoughts about that?
So you mean they do it in the best interest of themselves, or they do it in the best interest of the team or the group that they're with, or because they could be two different things.
By definition, a leader is a person who does what's right or good. So there's no really surrounding premise behind what I'm, how the statement is perceived. But I mean, if we look at Hitler, I guess, would say what he did was wrong. However, in his eyes and the people's eyes, he was doing what he thought was right and good for his people. So, I mean, again, it goes.
But he was leading them. He wasn't leading us. So he wasn't our leader. So our perception of what he did is wrong. He's not our leader. So he's not. Does that make sense? So the people that he's actually leading perceive as what he's doing is right. Obviously, there's the majority. So there'd be people that didn't agree, but like anything, so a business owner, like, well, I've had it happen at my work. The bloke that runs the studio, he's had to make decisions that were right for him to go forward. They weren't initially right for us, but in the long run it was. So he had to make cuts here and there to make sure that he had a sustainable business for years and years to come. Yeah. But at that present time, it wasn't, very well liked decision. So it depends on what obviously the scenario is, but how you define him, like how do you see that person as a leader? Whether you see them as someone who's in it for their own benefit, like if they're leading because they just like the spotlight or they like it, or if they're leader, if they generally like leading people. Yeah,
and it goes back to, well, we actually don't have a higher being that determines what's right or good. So whilst we would say that leader did the wrong thing, in other people's eyes, that was the right thing to do. So, and this is the exciting thing about psychology. There's really no right or wrong. And who's the judge to say that what's right or wrong? You look at the laws. So, for example, in Bali with the drug smugglers and death is the penalty, and then we're like, oh, how could that be? But there is no governing body to say, well, that leadership style is incorrect.
Yeah.
And I guess that's why we have wars, and that's why we have all, difference of opinions. And whilst it's exciting, sometimes it's a bit scary. So, I mean, I watched a clip of who's the North Korean president? What is he?
Kim Jong.
Oh my God! Have you seen? I'll send you a clip about him.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. It was. I think it's the 11. It's called the 11 things you didn't know about North Korea.
Oh yeah.
Is it North Korea? Yeah.
Yeah, it's North Korea.
I'll send it to you. Actually, it might be on. I'll actually make the link available on the website. I can't believe the rules that he has, and his soldiers are allowed to smoke marijuana.
Oh really?
And that would be to make sure that they're always zen, and so he can have control. It's just interesting. When he punishes people, he doesn't just punish the person; he punishes 3 generations. So if it was the father, he will get the grandfather and the child and put them in prison to eradicate any bad things to happen in the future within that family.
That's full on.
Yeah, I'll show you. I was like, whoa. But anyway, the last one is a person skillful. A person skillful in their field makes a better leader. Do you think you need to have played NRL to be a good NRL coach?
No.
Okay.
Because, like you said, I think in your lecture you said an assistant coach or a couple assistant coaches would help you with your weaknesses. So you like what a coach is meant to do is meant to obviously get the best team available for game day. So if he's really good with people, he's really good at selections, he's really good with injuries, he's got a rough understanding of the actual game, and he's got people around him that can actually support him and help him with that. So if you've got a really good assistant coach who's played NRL before, but he's terrible with people and not very good at, your halftime talks, your full-time talks, your preparation, selecting, interchange, all that sort of stuff, but they've played it, they're probably not the right coaches to someone who is good with all those game day situations, and they can let the assistant coaches, your sports trainers and all that stuff, actually handle the ins and outs.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of European coaches in soccer that have never played. Yeah, they're competitive football in the Premier League, and that they've never. Yeah, even they might have touched a ball in their junior days or played a little bit, but they went straight into coaching, or they, got a really bad injury, but they've been around the game, they understand the game, and they've got other people around them that actually help them understand what it's like to play the game.
Yeah, and that's true. I mean, professional football soccer is a perfect example of coaches who really haven't played at an elite level, but are good managers. They can manage people, and they have tactical support around them that does that stuff for them.
Yeah, but that's like it's classic example. You've got players, as the games evolve, it's completely different. So you see someone play rugby league, then they go to rugby union for 3 years, they come back to absolute rubbish. They've lost all, because the game keeps evolving.
Yeah.
But then you've got a coach who played 30 years ago, trying to replicate how he played the game, or how he won premierships, and that the game's completely different. It doesn't even matter if he played. He'll understand what it's like to have a big contact or hit or playing under fatigue, but you can always get that out of just watching and just experiencing it. And you've got to understand what the modern game's like. You can't understand what it was like 20, 30 years ago to play in any sport.
And even to be a player doesn't mean you see, like, you might be a Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that you actually understand the game. Like, when you think about Michael Jordan's game, he had the ball in his hand half the time.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean he could be able to lead a whole team with regards to offenses and defenses. But
Yeah.
look, again, no right or wrong answer. I mean, basically, I got us to talk about something that was not going to have a conclusion. So all three arguments, there is no right or wrong. I think with the last one, you could be extremely skillful in your sport, but you might not have leadership skills, or you could be lacking in your knowledge for the sport, but you have great leadership skills. Doesn't mean that you won't be a good leader, like you said, and what I mentioned in the lecture. You just got to have the support team around you that feels the weaknesses that you have.
Mm.
Anyway, I really enjoy talking about this topic, like these topics, and usually in face-to-face classes, like maybe 20 of us, so there's lots of opinions going around. So I appreciate, thank you for giving me your insight. But I find this fascinating, and for us, this is what we need to master. So back to the drawing board. I'll just share this with you again. All right. I don't think we have too much. I got you to do your listening test.
Yeah.
And then did you design a communication activity?
No, that's the thing I've got to do. So
No worries.
Test, and that's what I'll do today.
Okay. I mean, you could just talk through, I mean, I'll tell you an example of a communication activity I've done. Where are you? I'll get off. Stop sharing. I do lots of communication activities. I'd find, but even as a team building kind of an aspect towards what I want them to achieve. But I often do a drill where I put up a picture, so it could be a house, and half, so they'll be in pairs. One pair would face away, and the other pair would sit on the other side. So this person will be drawing the picture that I have. They give instructions to the person behind them of how to draw the picture.
Oh, yeah.
And the reason why I do that activity is because it's the interpretation of what a message is. So whilst they think that they're explaining a very clear house of what a house looks like, it's amazing what the pictures end up looking like.
Yeah, I've done things like that before.
And isn't it freaky? Because you just kind of go, how did you do that? But it's like, well, actually, you sent a message. And the key point about that is your message was interpreted differently.
Yeah.
So
it's like, you know, me telling one of my clients to go and do, you know, a K run. So to some people that might be a real easy task, and other people that might be like overkill. Like they've got different perceptions of what it actually means. Like I might say we're going to do a really, really hard workout, and to me, I might think I'm going to make them do exactly what I do, but they could be at a level where, you know, doing 5 sprints on the bike is just really hard because their fitness level isn't there. So I've obviously got to elaborate on what I'm actually doing instead of, all right, today we're going to do a really hard workout. I've got to say we're going to do a hard workout. It's going to involve, you know, this and this and this. Make sure you're stretching and warming up before we start the session.
And this is what you're likely to experience through this session. Like I think giving them, like often I'll teach an offense to the girls when I was coaching, and they're just robots. And I'm like, do you know why you're doing what you're doing? Well, no. It's like, okay, so then for me, it was like, I'm going to get you to understand the game of basketball rather than just running a play. And it's just trying to probe them and ask them questions about, okay, why are we doing this? What's the purpose of this? And get them to think for themselves rather than me just dumping information and assuming that they actually understand.
I did a session yesterday with a group of 4. And we just pretty much played ball games the whole hour. So I just come up with it, and they were spent by the end of it. But I have got one client that she always overthinks everything. So it was just a simple game where I had, you know, 2 balls. I had 4 balls total. I had 2 balls at either end, and the whole aim of the game was 2 girls on one team, 2 girls on the other team. They had to go and retrieve their balls and then put them all the way back into their yeah, at their end without getting tags. They had to find out little ways that they could distract someone or,
Cool.
you know, move around. And 3 of them understood it. One of them just overthinking everything and saying, "Oh, well, what happens if this happens, and what happens if that happens?" And she was trying to do every little play in the book, but then confused herself so much. So whenever she picked the ball up, she had no idea what she was doing because she was trying to focus on, you know, things that weren't there. So I had to then take her back and go, you know, let's just do it with one ball, and let's just make it 1-on-1 instead of 2 people in there, because I had too many balls, too many people, and it really just overcomplicated her, and she wasn't up to that progression yet. But the other 3 were. We played 2 or 3 games of that, and then all of a sudden she got the hang of it, and then we could throw in the second ball each, and, you know, partners in there as well.
But it's those people too that allow you to go, oh, I've got to change the way I explain this. Completely
Yeah,
get
exactly. So, like, it was the point where I kept explaining it, and then her partner, like the person she was training with, was explaining the same rules that I was explaining it, and she was just in one ear out the other, because all she was caring about was what happens in this scenario, where she wasn't focusing on that. So we had to take a step back and really let the other 3 just, you know, stand on the sideline where this one person was trying to understand what was going on, because, you know, she had a completely different perception of what message I was relaying to her. Like, she couldn't. So we had to actually do a walkthrough and show her what happens, and she was trying to demonstrate what happens in this scenario. So then I had to tell her what happened, and once she did it, that scenario didn't even pop up in the whole game. Like, we played like 5 games and didn't pop up once, but that's all she was worrying about.
And it's so intriguing though, where people's thoughts go. Like, I've had to use different modes. So the one thing I have learned over the years, I've got to deliver my message in several ways. It's got to be auditory, so I've got to at least say it so they can hear it. I've got to draw it sometimes. I've got to allow them to do it, walk through it like you have. Because even if I do the auditory and I go, you got it? Yep, coach, got it.
Yeah.
They don't have it. So then it's like, before we go do it, let's do a demo. Then let's walk through it. Let's do, and like your field is even more dangerous. Like, the last thing you want is for someone to go do an exercise that they haven't got and injure themselves. So for you need to have that complete understanding with the client. So
it's hard because sometimes you go through the motions all the time. So you might get a new client through. It could be an old client, but if you're tweaking the training style that you're doing a little bit, so you might be just doing a bicep curl, but you want them to pause at the top, pause at the middle, pause at the bottom, you know, and you're doing all those little things. You demonstrate 1 or 2 reps of that. They almost don't take it in. They just think, oh, I'm just doing a curl. You've got to almost demonstrate the whole set and almost do the first whole set with them and demonstrate it, talk it, because it just, like, a lot of the times it just won't go through.
Yeah.
But then you might do a cardio drill. You get them to do 200 meters in the row as fast as you can. You've got to demonstrate, you know, almost set the bar and go, right, I'll do it with you, but I'll do it, and you've got to make sure it's under 30 seconds or under 40 seconds. Otherwise, their perception of going flat out will be completely different.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yes, pushing the boundaries that they set quite low at the beginning.
Yeah.
All right, so that's it for the content for this week. Presentation. Do you just continue doing your individual part? I haven't heard from. So I think there's Ed and Holly, who I spoke to this week. There's only 4 of us now in the course, and I haven't got hold of Paul. So you're doing children, and you're doing part 4. Is that right?
Yeah, I'll do that. I haven't had a chance to, because I did the quiz yesterday. But yeah, I've got another assignment due at the end of next week.
Yeah.
So I'll make a start of that, and then once I make the start of that, halfway through next week, I'll take a look at the the assignment for this subject.
The essay.
Yeah, the essay.
Oh.
So I'll go with children, or but yeah, and I'll just pick out what question I want to answer and go from there.
Yeah, package it up, do a Google Hangout like I'm doing, and you can record it. So I've actually got this recording. So did I show you how to do this?
Yeah, screen share, that green button.
Not necessarily how to start a Google Hangout. Anyway, look, you know what? Let's do it get your content done. And then when you're getting close to, as long as you get it to me, to be honest, Aidan, there's no rush. So you've got to a week 11 to get it done. I just don't want you to be slammed with the whole heap of assessment tasks at the one time. So
yeah,
suit yourself.
Yeah, right.
All right.
Oh,
okay, cool. So next week, concentrate on week 6 content. Week 6 is it arousal? I can't even think. I can't even remember. Oh, psychological skills training. So we'll have a look at that next week. Okay.
Awesome.
All right, cheers. Have a great day, and I'll see you. Should we keep the same time, 10 o'clock every
Thursday?
Yeah,
that works for me. It just gives me a bit more time to get through the content.
Perfect. Let's do it. All
awesome.
right, Aidan.
Thank you.
I'll see you later.
Yeah.